The boy's arm shook under the weight. The crate slipped, slammed into the dirt, and the lid cracked open with a dull snap. Dust rose. He bent down fast, thinking he'd see tools, nails, maybe grain sacks. Instead, cloth, folded neat, colors faded, a quilt, and beside it, a badge smeared with something dark that had seeped into the wood long ago. His aunt froze where she stood. She stared hard, not at the quilt, not at the crate, but at the badge glinting in the weak light. Her voice came sharp, low. "That ain't ours." The boy squinted at her. "Then why's it here?" She didn't move, didn't blink. He leaned closer, reached for the cloth. "Looks old, real old. Don't touch it." He pulled his hand back, slow, but didn't stand. "What's it doing in Pa's shed, then?" "Shut it." He shook his head. "You knew it was here." "I said shut it." The quilt lay still, but the badge caught the light again when the lid rocked in the dirt. The boy frowned, eyes locked on the stain across the metal. "That blood," she stiffened. "Rust. Don't look like rust." "Then don't look at it." He sat back on his heels, face set. "You hiding something?" Her jaw tightened. She stepped forward quick, yanked the badge from the dirt before he could reach again. He flinched back. "That's mine now." He scowled. "Says who?" "Me." He rose, taller than she remembered him being, shoulders squared like he thought he was grown. "You scared?" She didn't answer. She held the badge tight in her hand, thumb pressed to the stain. He smirked. "If it don't belong to us, why are you keeping it?" Her mouth opened, shut, opened again. No words came. The boy folded his arms. "Thought so." Silence stretched between them. Dust drifted from the cracked boards of the shed behind. The horse inside stamped its hoof, the sound sharp, restless. The boy glanced that way. "Even the horse knows," she snapped. "Horse don't know nothing." "Then why'd it stomp?" She glared, but he kept his eyes steady on her. For a moment, she saw his father in him, the way he wouldn't let silence win. "You want answers," she said finally. "I want truth." She shook her head. "You wouldn't know truth if it cut you." He stepped closer, eyes on the quilt. "Who's it for?" "Don't." "Tell me." "Not yours to carry." "Neither's that badge, but you're holding it." She gritted her teeth. Her hand trembled, though she kept it close to her chest. The boy bent, picked up the quilt before she could stop him. He shook it out once, dust rising, corners fraying, colors long faded, threadbare but stitched careful. He held it like it mattered. "Someone made this for keeps. You see how it's sewn? Not for work, for memory." Her face turned hard. "Put it back." "No." "Now." He hugged it tighter, voice sharp. This was hers. Wasn't it? Her shoulders stiffened. He saw it. It was Mama's. Her lips pressed thin. She looked at the dirt. Didn't say yes. Didn't say no. The boy's voice cracked. "You left it to rot in a crate." "I left it where it belonged." "Buried?" "Quiet. You don't bury quilts." "You do when they carry ghosts." The horse stamped again, harder this time. A low snort carried out of the dark. The boy turned to the sound. "Hear that? Even it remembers." "Stop." "You can't shut it up." "Can't shut me up either." She grabbed his arm hard. "You listen now. Some things don't get spoken. They stay shut." He ripped free. "Shut so you don't feel guilty." Her face burned. "Watch your mouth." He threw the quilt back into the crate. "You afraid of cloth?" She slapped the lid shut, but the corner caught on the badge in her grip. It slipped, clanged against the wood, then dropped back in the dirt. Both of them froze. He looked down. She looked too. The badge stared up at them, stained, glinting, dull and red. He whispered, "Not rust." She bent, slow, lifted it again. She held it to the light. Her breath caught like she'd touched fire. The horse snorted loud, pulling at its tether, hooves scraping. The boy's eyes narrowed. "Told you." She turned away, clutching the badge like it would vanish if she let go. She muttered low, almost to herself, "Should have burned it." He stepped closer, voice rising. "Then why didn't you?" She didn't answer. He pushed. "You were scared." She spun on him, eyes fierce. "You don't know scared." "Then show me." Her lips parted, but no words came. Just the horse's restless noise, the sharp rattle of its chain, the sound of memory pressing down heavy as stone. The boy stared at her hand around the badge. "That hers, too." Her breath shook. "No." "Then who?" Her silence was louder than any word. The horse stomped again. The boy flinched, then set his jaw. "It remembers her." Same as I do. She didn't look at him. She raised the badge higher, light flashing off its scarred surface. The boy whispered, "You can't hide it anymore." She whispered back, "I've been hiding it my whole life." The horse gave a long, low snort, head pushing against the stall, like it was waiting. Her hand shook, badge trembling in the fading light. The quilt lay forgotten in the crate. The boy's chest heaved. The silence between them stretched thin, like a rope about to snap. And then the horse called out again, sharp, loud, cutting through everything. She turned to it fast, clutching the badge high. The boy didn't move, didn't breathe. The horse stomped once more, harder, dirt kicking up. She stared at it, eyes wide, like she wasn't sure if it was an animal or a memory come back to life. She held the badge to the light. The horse snorted again, deep and certain like it. Remembered. The saddle landed with a thud. Dust kicked up off the rail. The boy slung the stirrup over, yanked the cinch tight. The horse flinched but didn't bolt. She stood behind him, arms folded, eyes narrow. "Don't ride it." He didn't answer. "I said don't." He cinched tighter. She took a step forward. "It ain't been broke since your mama." He looked up. "Maybe it ain't broke 'cause no one tried." She shook her head. "Your uncle tried. Sheriff tried. Even the preacher's boy tried. One got kicked in the ribs. One broke his nose. Other just quit." The boy put his boot in the stirrup. She grabbed the rein. "You ain't her." He stared at her hand on the leather. "Neither are you." The horse shifted under him. Its eyes blinked slow. She let go, but didn't step back. "It don't listen." "Maybe not to you." He leaned forward, nudged with his heel. The horse didn't move. He clicked his tongue. "Come on." It stood still. She crossed her arms. "Told you." He looked down at the saddle horn, sighed. "Then talk to it." She frowned. "What?" "You said it listens to her." Her voice dropped. "I didn't say that." "You did with your face." The horse shifted. One hoof scraped the dirt. He said again, "Quiet. Talk to it." She hesitated. "Say something," he whispered. She looked at the horse, looked at the boy, then said, low and clear, "Whoa now." The horse blinked, lowered its head. The boy's eyes widened. She stepped closer, voice softer. "That's right. Easy." The horse's front legs bent. It lowered down, slow, one knee at a time, until it knelt. The boy didn't speak. The wind didn't move. She stared at the horse like it had just called her name. He dismounted without thinking, reached out. It knew her. She didn't answer. He repeated louder. It knew her. The horse stayed low, its eyes on her, not him. He whispered, "Say something else." "No." "Why not?" She stepped back. "It's just muscle, memory. That ain't her." It bowed to your voice. She turned toward the barn. "Get it out your head." He followed her. It knelt like it remembered. "It don't remember nothing. Animals don't carry ghosts." "Then why is it looking at you like that?" She didn't turn. "'Cause it's hungry, or sick, or both." He grabbed the reins, tugged gently. "Then feed it with truth." She stopped walking, her back stiff. He said it slow this time. What did she do to make it listen like that? Silence. He added, "You said it never listened since her." Still silence. He pulled the horse beside her. It stood again, calm, eyes soft. He whispered, "Say her name." She turned then. "Don't." "Why?" "'Cause I ain't said it in 10 years." "Then say it once." She looked at the horse, looked at him, looked past both. Like something stood behind them. The boy's grip on the reins tightened. "Please." She swallowed hard. "Maylee." The horse's ears twitched. The boy whispered, "There." She said it again, quieter. "Maylee." The horse stepped forward, one slow step. Toward her. She backed up. "Stop that. It ain't me." "Make it stop." He held the reins loose. "I ain't pulling it." The horse stood inches from her now. She stared at its eyes. Her lip trembled. The boy watched them both. "You raised it same time you raised her." She nodded. "Barely. Why didn't you sell it after?" "I tried." He waited. She looked at the dirt. It came back. He blinked. "What?" "Broke out. Found its way back from the auction yard. 3 counties over." He looked at the horse. "How?" She shrugged. "Didn't follow roads, just came." He stepped back into the stirrup, mounted again. The horse didn't flinch. She said, "Firm." You're not taking it out that gate. I ain't taking it. It's going. It don't know the road. I think it does. She stepped in front of them. It's dangerous. He leaned forward. Not if you talk. Her voice cracked. Why are you doing this? 'Cause I ain't got a grave. I got a quilt in a crate and a badge with blood. She blinked fast. You got me. He didn't answer. She said again, quieter. You got me. He stared ahead. Not enough. The wind moved now. Just a little. The horse snorted, soft. He looked down at her. You coming? I said I ain't walking no ridge. He waited. She looked at the horse, then at the barn, then at the crate, still cracked open behind them. She whispered, Maylie. The horse turned its head. She stepped forward. 1 foot, then another. He rode slow. Not far, just past the barn wall. She followed, on foot. He said, Don't stop talking. She said, I ain't talking to you. I know. She whispered something low. The horse turned its head again. He watched it. It hears her voice in yours. No. Then why is it listening? She didn't answer. The trail bent toward the fence line. She kept whispering. The horse kept moving. It turned its head every time she spoke, and the boy didn't say another word. He just watched the way it followed her voice, like it was following her ghost. The sun hadn't risen far. Still low enough the boy had to squint under his brim. The horse walked without nudging, slow and steady, like it already knew the way. The aunt kept her pace behind, boots silent in the dust. He looked over his shoulder. You always walk this slow? She didn't answer. He said louder, I asked if you was always this slow. Her voice came low. I'm walking. That's fast enough. The horse kept moving, ears twitching every time she spoke. He called back, Where'd she ride? This thing too. Nowhere. You said she trained it. She did. So where'd she ride it? She didn't reply. He turned forward again. You always this talkative? You always this pushy? He grinned. Guess it runs in the family. Silence stretched. The road curved gentle past a line of dead fence posts. He cleared his throat. She worked the mill? No. The inn? No. Then where? Fields. He raised an eyebrow. That all? Mostly. What's the rest? She didn't answer. He tapped the saddle horn. You said mostly like you were hoping I wouldn't ask. She exhaled sharp. She worked graves too. He stiffened. Like burying. Sometimes. He turned back again. That means she was digging or mourning? Both. He blinked. She dig her own? Her steps slowed. Don't say that. Why not? 'Cause we don't know. Don't know what? If she's dead. He looked forward. That badge in the crate says otherwise. Badge don't speak. Then you say it. She stopped walking. He stopped the horse. She said nothing. He waited. You gonna keep swallowing truth till it rots you? She looked up at him, face hard. You think asking questions is same as knowing answers. I think someone around here ought to try. She stepped forward again, slower now. The horse moved too. Up ahead, the path forked. To the right, pavement, smooth, wide, lined with ditch grass. To the left, dirt, narrow, old, hemmed by scrub and rusted wire. The boy didn't steer, just held the reins loose. The horse chose dirt. She muttered, Figures. He glanced back. Why's that? It's where she always looked. He narrowed his eyes. You mean road? Number looked. The dirt road dipped low, then rose again. Thistle caught the wind. He said, What did she do that made you ashamed? I ain't ashamed. Then why you lying? I ain't. Not saying is still lying. She sped up. You think you can hurt me with questions? I think someone already did. They walked a while without sound, just hoofsteps and wind through the grass. He broke it. Did she run? She didn't run. Then what? She stopped showing up. That's running. No. Why not? Running means she had somewhere to go. He swallowed that. Didn't argue. The dirt road bent. On one side, broken fence. On the other, nothing but flat. He said quiet, I remember a blue dress. She looked up, startled. He added, Could have been a dream. She had one. Sunday dress. I remember the sleeves. Puffy like bread. That's the one. The horse slowed near the bend. She said, "She wore it the day she disappeared." He flinched. "So you were saying she's gone?" "I didn't say dead." "Gone's worse." The horse stopped. Up ahead, a gate, chain-wrapped, padlocked, sagging in the middle. The boy leaned forward. "This it?" She nodded once. "Ridge Road." He scanned the posts. "Don't look like it's been touched in years." "It ain't." He slid off the saddle. The crate was strapped behind the saddle. He untied the rope. The crate tilted. The lid wobbled. He reached to steady it. Didn't notice the corner of the quilt catch on barbed wire. As he stepped toward the gate, the fabric tugged free. It unfurled halfway, then caught, hung there, flapping weak against rust. He turned, saw it. "Guess she don't like fences." The aunt didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the fabric. He said, "You want me to pull it off?" "No." "Why not?" "She put it there." He blinked. "You said it was buried in the crate." "She didn't bury it." He looked between the gate and her. "You mean she rode this far?" "She stood right there." He followed her gaze. Bare dirt. A worn patch shaped like a boot had once pressed down deep. He walked to it, kneeled, ran a hand through the soil, found nothing. He looked back. "She say anything?" "One thing." "What?" "Don't follow." He looked past the gate. The road beyond was overgrown. No tracks, no trail, just tall grass and silence. He stood. "You listened?" "Had to." "Why?" "She was holding a knife." He didn't speak. The wind shifted. The quilt fluttered harder. He stepped to it, pulled it loose from the barbs, held it like it weighed something more than cloth. She walked up behind him, said soft, "You still want to ride that horse?" He nodded. "Then you go round. This gate don't open." He looked at the lock. "Still got the key?" "No." He waited. She said again, "It don't open." He looked at the quilt, at the gate, at the road beyond, then back at her. "Then we don't need it to." She raised a brow. He walked back to the horse, climbed on, tied the quilt tight behind the saddle. "Lead the way," he said. She didn't move, didn't speak, but she followed. One step behind, always behind. They stood there a long time. The gate didn't move. The wind didn't push it. The chain around it was wound tight, tangled like someone had wrapped it more than once. Padlock rusted, loop fused into the links. The boy pressed a boot against the bottom rail. "Break it." The aunt didn't move. "This ain't ours to break." "Then who locked it?" She stared past the gate. "Whoever wanted it forgotten." He tugged at the top rail. "You got bolt cutters?" "No." "Crowbar?" "No." "You got anything useful at all?" "I got memory." He scoffed. "That don't cut chain." She stepped closer, not to him, to the gate. Her fingers hovered over the wire like it might burn her. The horse shifted behind them, one snort, then a sharp stamp of its hoof. The boy turned. "Even it's tired of waiting." The quilt flapped against the barbed wire, caught by one edge. It twisted like it was trying to crawl through. He pointed at it. "You see that?" She nodded, didn't speak. "It wants in." "Cloth don't want anything." "Then why's it reaching?" "'Cause you pulled it loose and tied it wrong." The boy stepped beside her. "You know what's behind here, don't you?" "I know what they don't talk about." He stared at her. "You were here." She didn't answer. "You saw her." She looked down. "You saw what she did." Still nothing. "You let her go." "I didn't let anything." "You didn't stop her." "No one could have." He gritted his teeth. "Say her name." "No." "Say it." "It won't help." He backed away, shook the gate hard. It rattled but didn't open. "This thing's dying to open. It's meant to stay shut." "Meant by who?" She didn't answer. He pointed. "This your fence line?" "No." "You own this land?" "No." "Then who does?" "Same men that own the badge." That shut him up for a beat. The wind blew harder. The quilt flapped wild now, one corner tangled tight. The boy squinted at it. "You recognize that stitch?" She nodded once. "I helped her sew it." He blinked. "You made this?" "She bled on that square there." Pricked her thumb. He stared at the spot. "Why'd she bring it here?" "Same reason she left the horse." "To be found?" "To be followed." The chain jangled once like it moved without touch. The horse stomped again. The boy stepped back to it, grabbed the saddlebag. "I'll find something to cut it." "No, you won't." "I will." "You ain't got what you need." "Then I'll use my hands." "Don't be stupid. Don't be scared." That one landed. She walked to the gate, put her fingers on the wire. The metal groaned like it remembered her. She traced the knot where the chain held. Her thumb brushed the rust. The boy said, "There's no key, is there?" "No. Never was." "There was, once." "What happened to it?" "She buried it." "Where?" "Somewhere I wouldn't follow." The boy stood beside her now. "You gonna open it or not?" She clenched the badge in her palm. "You don't know what's back there." "Neither do you." "Not really." "I know enough." He stared at her. "She your sister or not?" She looked up fast. "That hurt." He pushed. "Then stop acting like she's a problem instead of blood." She turned away. She was both. The wind howled once, sharp through the post holes. The quilt blew free from the wire, slapped against the gate. The horse backed up a step. The boy waited. The aunt stared at. "The gate," he said. "If it's memory you got, use it." She stepped forward, 2 hands on the chain. She didn't yank. She twisted, slow, deliberate. The chain shifted. She twisted again. Metal scraped metal. The lock cracked. One final jerk. The whole thing slipped loose. The gate swung open with a shriek that tore across the road like a scream. The boy stepped back. The horse reared just once, not high, just enough to make its breath whistle. Beyond the gate, land, flat, burned low, rows, not trees, not graves, stones, each carved with the same single brand. The boy whispered, "What is this?" She didn't answer. He took one step in. She stayed behind. He turned. "You coming?" She stared at the stones. "Come on." I said no. "You opened it. Doesn't mean I walk it." He looked at the stones again. Lined neat like soldiers. No names, no flowers, just marks. He stepped further. "You see what I see?" "Yes." "You gonna name it?" "No." The horse didn't move. It stared too. The boy kept walking. 1 row, then 2. He knelt beside one stone, reached out. His fingers brushed the brand, burned in deep, still warm. He flinched back, looked over his shoulder. The aunt hadn't moved. She stood in the mouth of the open gate, badge in hand, quilt over one arm, wind pulling at her hair, the past pulling harder. The boy stepped deeper into the rows. The stones weren't markers. They were warnings. Each one bore the same brand, burned in, some scorched sharp, others weathered down until the edges blurred. No names, no numbers, just the symbol. The same one, over and over. He crouched beside the nearest, ran his fingers across the heat-scored shape. It stung cold even in sunlight. This was hers. The aunt didn't speak. He looked back. I said, this was hers. Still nothing. He stood up, voice harder. Was it hers? She nodded once. That was all. He stared at the stone. Then where's her name? The wind passed through. Quiet. He crouched again, brushed away dust from the base. More brand, no letters. They marked her like livestock. She stayed at the gate. You just let 'em? No one lets anything out here, she said. Things just get done. He scowled. You were older. You could have stopped it. I was 17. Old enough to fight. No one was fighting back then. Not girls. He kicked at the dirt. A thin layer scattered off the next stone. Another brand stared up at him. The horse stepped closer. Its breath huffed slow, nostrils flaring. The boy turned to the next row, walked along the stones. Some tilted, half swallowed by the land. Others looked fresh, dirt loose around the base like someone had just planted them. He crouched at one. How many girls out here? She didn't answer. He rose. More than one, right? The quilt shifted in her arms. He said, You think nobody would find this? I hoped they wouldn't. Why? So I wouldn't have to look again. He stepped over another stone. What was the brand for? She hesitated. Belonging. Belonging to who? The men who ran the ridge. He squinted at her. The same ones who gave out badges? She nodded. He turned back to the stones. They marked her like she was theirs. She worked for them. She bled for them. The wind shifted again. The horse took one step forward, then stopped. The boy noticed it staring at something. Off to the right. He followed the gaze. Something pale in the grass. He walked to it, knelt, pushed weeds aside. Another stone, smaller, crooked. The symbol was there, but cracked through the middle. He touched it. It moved. He said, This one's loose. She took a step toward him. Leave it. He didn't. He brushed more dirt off the top. The crack deepened through the brand. He pressed his palm against it. The stone shifted under him, then split, not like a rock, like a hinge. The top peeled back with a dry creak. Inside was black earth and something folded. Paper. He reached toward it. "No," she said fast, but it was too late. He pulled the slip out slow. It stuck to itself, thin, brittle. He held it up. "It's writing." She reached for it, hands trembling. "Give me that." He let go. She took it in both palms like it might tear if touched wrong. The wind calmed. She opened it. One line, handwritten, faded. The boy peered over her shoulder. "What's it say?" Her voice caught. "Can't tell." "You read it or not?" She blinked. "I can't tell if it's a name or a prayer." "Read it," she whispered. "To the one who comes looking. This stone ain't mine. I put it here for her, to hide what was done." The boy's jaw clenched. "She wrote that? Looks like her hand. She tried to bury someone else's sin. She tried to confuse them, cover the tracks." He stared at the broken stone. Who was under this one? No one. He turned. She added, "She didn't want them to know which was hers." He stood. "So they marked all the girls the same?" "Yes." "No names? No voices?" He paced the row. "This whole place is a lie. It's what they left behind. I don't want it. You already carry it." He stopped walking. The horse pawed at the dirt. They both turned. Its hoof had scraped near the base of another stone. Something poked out. Another folded slip. The boy ran over, pulled it from the roots. This one was blank. He turned it over twice. Still nothing. He looked at her. Why hide a blank note? She stepped closer, took it, flipped it once, then again. "There's a crease," she said. "Means what?" "Means someone was about to write and didn't." He frowned. "You saying she was scared?" "I'm saying she thought it and stopped." He stared at the stone again, then at the quilt still folded under her arm. "You think she wanted us to come here?" She looked back at the gate. She left the horse. She left the crate. She left a trail. The boy stared out across the field, the brands, the stones, the empty wind. She didn't run. No. She went quiet. Yes. He knelt again, pressed his palm against the cracked stone. This time it didn't shift, just held still, like it had heard everything it needed. She held the paper like it might disintegrate. The edges crumbled under her thumb. One corner had turned black, like it had been half burned, half buried. The crease down the middle trembled with every breath she took. The boy leaned in. "What's it say?" Her mouth opened, but she didn't speak. Not yet. He waited. She turned the paper toward the light, tilted it, squinted. There was handwriting, scrawled sharp, almost carved into the paper instead of written. A name. Her name. But reversed. Every letter backwards, like someone wrote it looking in a mirror. She read it under her breath, then again, louder. "Lyra." The horse flinched. The boy's eyes snapped to it. It shook its head once, pawed the dirt. He whispered, "It knows that name." She held the paper tighter. "It knew her too." He stepped closer. "That's your name." She nodded once. "Middle name." He frowned. "I never heard anyone call you that." "No one did." "Not after." "After what?" She didn't answer. He pointed to the letter. "Who wrote it?" She studied the penmanship. "Someone with a left hand and a reason to whisper." "That mean anything?" "It means they didn't want anyone watching to read it straight." He stared. "That's why it's backwards." She nodded. "They folded it like they were hiding it from both sides." He stepped beside her. "Who?" She looked at the paper again. "Someone who wanted me to turn around." He said, "Then why didn't you?" She didn't answer. The wind stirred. The horse made a low, restless sound. The boy said, "Why didn't you turn around?" She looked up at the sky like it might change her mind. "Because I already knew what I'd see." He tilted his head. "Then what was the point of writing it?" "So I couldn't forget it." "But you did." She looked at the stone beside her boot. "Yeah, I did." He reached for the letter. "Can I see it?" She handed it over. He turned it in his hands. "Why sign your name backward?" "To call it back," she said. He stared at her. "You saying this was some kind of charm?" "I'm saying when someone don't have a voice no more, they write backwards, hoping the world might echo it back." He folded the paper once. "You still think she's dead?" She said nothing. He folded it again. "What if she wrote this for you?" he asked. She nodded. "Then I missed it." The boy stared at the field. "You sure this wasn't hers?" She turned to the horse. "It moved when I said the name." It moved like it heard her. The horse was quiet now, but it watched them. He walked over to it, pressed the folded letter to its muzzle. It didn't pull away. He turned. "You really think this horse came back on its own?" It walked 20 miles across 4 fences, kicked open a cattle guard. "Why?" "Same reason you came looking." He raised an eyebrow. "Guilt?" "Number blood." He walked back to her, held out the letter. "You keep it." She shook her head. "You found it." He dropped it into her palm. "But it speaks to you." She opened the crate still strapped behind the saddle, pulled the quilt loose, folded the letter inside, tucked it deep near the worn corner where the thread had split. "Safe now," she whispered. He mounted the horse again. "You sure about this?" she asked. He nodded. "You don't know where that road ends." "I know where this one starts." She looked at the stones again. "You think they'll let you walk into town carrying that brand?" "I ain't carrying it. It's already burned into me." She paused. "That true?" He tapped his chest. "Feels like it," she said. "You'll be marked same as her. I'm her son." "You're more than that." "Then come with me." She hesitated. He said again, "Come with me." She swung herself up behind him without another word. The horse didn't need nudging. It turned on its own, started walking slow. The rows of stones fell behind them. The gate hung open. The wind picked up. She held the quilt in one arm, the badge tucked inside, the folded letter pressed tight against her ribs. He said, "You think people in town remember her?" She whispered, "They'll pretend they don't." "They know what happened?" "They know what they let happen." He looked over his shoulder. "You gonna tell it?" She said nothing. He asked again, "You gonna say what they did?" She held the letter tighter. "Depends who's still breathing." They rode in silence. The wind kicked up dust. The ridge faded behind them. The horse didn't pause, didn't flinch. It followed the road like it was going home. He looked at the horizon. "What's the sheriff's name again?" She answered without thinking. He repeated it to himself. The horse walked on. She adjusted the quilt. Her fingers brushed the edge of the folded paper. "You remember her voice?" he asked. "Only when I forget mine," she said. He turned forward again. The town waited. The brand rode with them, heavy, silent, and burning still. The horse stopped on its own, didn't flinch, didn't huff, just stood quiet at the base of the steps. The sheriff's porch was wide, shaded, held up by columns that leaned just slightly like they didn't believe in what they were supporting. The aunt sat stiff behind the boy, her fingers dug into the quilt, the badge burning hot inside the fold. The boy didn't wait. He shouted up toward the door. "Whose badge is this?" No answer. He shouted again. "You hear me?" A screen door creaked, then hinges groaned. The sheriff stepped out slow, boots first, then belt, then face. He didn't wear the badge anymore. His eyes weren't on the boy. They were on the quilt. "Where'd you get that?" he asked. The boy didn't answer. He held the reins tight. The horse twitched once. The sheriff's eyes dropped to the saddle. "That her horse?" The aunt didn't speak. The sheriff nodded to himself. "Figures." The boy raised his voice. "Whose badge is this?" The sheriff looked at him, but not hard, not sharp, just tired. "That's memory," he said. "Not evidence." The aunt stepped down. "It's both." The sheriff's gaze shifted to her. "You shouldn't have come." "You should have stopped us," she said. "I tried." "No, you didn't. I buried it." "Then you should have buried me too." He took a slow breath. "That was the deal." "What deal?" the boy asked. The sheriff didn't answer. The boy stepped down from the horse, walked to the base of the steps. "I'm not scared of you." "You should be." "Why?" "'Cause I remember more than I say." The boy pointed. "Then say it." The sheriff looked at the town behind them. "Ain't just me that's quiet." "You still the law?" the boy asked. "No." "You act like it." "I act like I still want peace." "You think this quilt is war?" The sheriff looked at the badge. "It's fire." The aunt stepped forward. "You gave it to her. She earned it. She died for it. She disappeared. She left pieces." He rubbed his forehead. "She knew how far not to go." The boy said, Then how'd she end up behind a locked gate with a stone and a mark? The sheriff said nothing. The aunt stepped onto the first step. Say her name. No. Say it. She gave it up. She whispered it to a horse. The sheriff looked at the animal. Still listens? The boy nodded. More than you do. The sheriff stared at the boy. You got her eyes. Then look at 'em and lie again. The sheriff looked down. She wasn't supposed to carry it this far. She carried it farther than you ever did. The quilt shifted in the aunt's arms. A corner fell open. The badge caught the sun. The sheriff flinched like it cut him. He muttered, You don't know what that cost me. The aunt said, Then pay again. The sheriff turned, reached into the doorway, came back with something heavy in his hand. A ledger. He dropped it on the step. Thud. Dust rose from the cover. Here, he said, every girl who signed in. The boy stepped closer. Every girl who disappeared? Every girl who worked the crates. Who marked the stones? The sheriff paused. I don't know. Liar. I signed them in, he said. I didn't sign them out. The aunt picked up the ledger, flipped it open. The pages were worn, some names scratched out, some missing dates. The boy leaned over her shoulder. What's this mean? It means they thought paperwork made it clean, she said. The sheriff didn't deny it. The horse stepped sideways. One hoof scraped the stones under the porch. Sparks flew. The sheriff looked past them, toward the ridge. He muttered, You dug too far. The horse reared, screamed, hooves hit stone, sparks snapped loud. The sheriff stepped back fast. The boy didn't move. The aunt held her ground. The horse came down hard. Dust rose around them. The badge fell from the quilt and landed at the sheriff's feet. He didn't touch it. He looked down, then away. The boy said, Pick it up. The sheriff shook his head. Pick it up, the boy repeated. It's not mine anymore. Never was. The aunt knelt, took the badge again, wiped it clean against the quilt. The boy said, You said she knew how far not to go. The sheriff nodded. She went past it anyway. The aunt said, That's why she mattered. The boy stared at the sheriff. This ledger, what's it worth? Depends who's still afraid. I'm not. The sheriff met his eyes. Then get off this porch before someone sees you and remembers. The boy turned to his aunt. We going? She tucked the badge back into the quilt. We're not done yet. The town heard. By noon, they'd gathered at the crossroads, not at the courthouse, not in the church, just there, where the dust collected and the wind kicked up the truth. The sheriff stood in the middle. No badge, no gun, just his hat low and hands empty. The boy and his aunt stood across from him, the horse behind them. The quilt folded in her arms like scripture. One by one, men filed in. Not lawmen, just men. But they carried weight. Fence line owners, grain scale keepers, the man who sold feed without receipts, the one who poured kerosene like it was holy water. The sheriff called it with no gavel, just voice. This is a hearing. Speak it now if you can. No one moved. He nodded toward the aunt. Go ahead. She stepped forward just one pace. She worked for you, all of you, carried your crates, bled in your sheds, paid in coin, in favors, in silence. The men didn't look at her. They looked at the ground, at their boots, at the cracks in the dirt. She never came home, she said. Still, no one spoke. The boy's voice rang sharp. You heard her? No answer. He pointed at the sheriff. You let her carry a badge. She earned it, the sheriff muttered. Then where's her name? No reply. The aunt turned to the men. Any of you write it down? The man from the mill scratched his beard, said nothing. The one who ran the ledger looked toward the store windows. The boy stepped into the center. Then I will. He grabbed the quilt from her arms, unfolded it. The wind took it fast. It billowed wide, threadbare but whole. Names stitched, threads faded, the badge sewn into the corner. The horse let out a soft breath behind them. The wind moved through the town like breath pulled back in. The quilt floated, then fell across the boy's outstretched arms. He turned slow, showing it to all sides. Her hands made this, he said. Her blood's in the seams. The blacksmith's son stepped forward, then stopped. The preacher's wife came next, hands wringing, silent. Then another, and another. Women. No words, no signs, just footsteps into the circle, one by one. The boy kept turning. Quilt stretched wide. They formed a ring inside the ring. The men didn't move. The sheriff looked pale. The aunt said, "You all knew." The grocer's wife spoke, first voice in the silence. "She taught my girl to sew." Another said, "She came home bleeding one night. Said she fell. Didn't ask more." "She stayed at my place a week," whispered another. "Never told why." "She washed up clothes for my boys. Never took a cent." The boy turned to the sheriff. "You still saying that's just memory?" The sheriff didn't answer. The boy raised his voice. "Say it, out loud. Tell them this isn't evidence." The sheriff looked at the quilt. "That's a story." "Then hear it." The aunt stepped forward, her voice steady now. "She was 16, worked the crates after school. You paid her less than half. Said it was because she was learning, but she was doing your labor. She turned to one man. She carried your sacks. To another, she loaded your wagon. Another, you locked her in to count inventory. Still no replies. She pointed to the stonecutter. You marked her with your brand." His jaw twitched. She said, "You think we can't count? Every one of those stones back on that ridge bears your shape." He said, "Lo, I didn't carve them, but you laid them." He didn't argue. The boy stepped to him. "What's the brand mean?" "Ownership." "Of what?" Silence. The boy's voice cracked. "Of who?" The man didn't answer. The sheriff looked at the women. "You all knew." No one spoke. The sheriff looked at the men. "You all knew." Still, no one moved. The boy said, "Then you all buried her." The wind gusted again. The quilt lifted. The boy let it go. It floated for a second, then dropped, landing in the dirt between them all. The horse let out a short breath, like it had seen this before. The aunt stepped forward. She never asked for justice. She asked to be remembered. The preacher's wife kneeled first. She picked up the edge of the quilt, folded it once. Another woman joined her, then another. They lifted it together, carried it across the circle, laid it at the sheriff's feet. The boy stared him down. "You want peace?" The sheriff looked up. "Not anymore." The circle held. The sheriff turned slowly, faced the men. "I told them she disappeared," he said. "Told them she ran." He looked at the badge. "I lied." The aunt whispered, "Now tell the rest." The sheriff shook his head. "I can't." The boy said, "Then we will." The sheriff looked out over the road, past the church, past the square, toward the ridge. "Too late for that," he said. The boy frowned. "Why?" "Because it's already coming down the hill." Everyone turned. The dust rose in the distance. One figure, on foot, walking slow, hair loose, dress blowing. The horse turned toward it, ears forward. Then the wind changed. The quilt lifted again, and every woman stepped closer to the circle, silent, but no longer still. The quilt didn't drag. They carried it level. Between them, the boy held one side, the aunt the other. Ash still clung to the corners, but the center, her name, shone clean, red thread, bright as blood on snow. They walked through town in silence. Doors creaked open, faces peeked from windows. No one spoke, but they watched. Behind them, the horse walked steady, still marked by smoke, still bearing the badge tucked under the quilt. By the time they reached the square, the air had shifted. The wind had stopped. The silence was thicker than before. Then came the sound. Boots, not scuffed, not worn, polished, marching in sync. The governor's men rode 5 across, uniform coats buttoned high, brass clean, hats untouched by dirt. Their horses taller, leaner, bred for parades, not work. They flanked the road like a gate closing. Then he arrived. Governor didn't ride. He walked, wide shoulders, gloves tucked behind his belt, eyes scanning, not with curiosity, but with ownership. He stopped when he reached the quilt. Didn't ask, didn't greet, just looked down. "That yours?" The aunt said. It was hers. He tilted his head. "She ain't here." The boy said, "She is." "She dead?" the governor asked. "She remembered," the aunt said. "That's worse," he muttered. She stepped closer. "You carved graves, not fences." He smiled without warmth. "Call them what you want." The boy's jaw clenched. "They called her mama." The governor turned to him. "You got her mouth and her voice. Then watch it." "No." The governor looked at the sheriff standing off to the side. "You started this?" The sheriff didn't respond. The governor looked back at the aunt. "Why bring this?" Here, she nodded at the quilt. Because your name's in it. He raised an eyebrow. So is half the county's. The boy spit near his boot. They didn't put their brand on her. The governor turned to his men. You hear this? They nodded, tight-lipped. The governor leaned in. You got proof. The boy didn't answer. The governor sneered. Prove it. The horse stepped forward, 2 slow steps, then stopped. It lowered its head, muzzle brushing the edge of the quilt. The crowd inhaled together. The governor looked at the horse. That's supposed to mean something, the ant said. It's the only one that didn't forget. The boy added, You ever lose a horse and have it come home? The governor didn't respond. This one walked through 4 counties to get back to her name, the boy said. The governor's lip curled. That quilt don't hold law. No, the ant said, but it holds truth. I buried truth a long time ago. You buried girls. He stepped closer. You accusing me of murder? I'm accusing you of silence. He glanced at the sheriff. They dragging me into this too. The sheriff said, You gave the orders. That true? The boy asked. The governor ignored him. You have witnesses. Ask your own men. The men didn't speak. The ant unfolded the quilt wide, held it to the light. There, she said. That's square. The thread there's different. The governor squinted. So? Because she sewed it blind, he frowned. She stitched your name without looking. That's what you made her do. Memorize it. You think a blanket proves I owned her? You didn't own her, the boy said. You ended her. The governor stepped back. You watch that tone, boy. The horse let out a low breath. The boy stood tall. What happens now? The governor turned to the crowd. Nothing, because no law was broken. You carved girls into stone. I branded work. You buried names. I marked effort. You told the town to forget. I told them to move on. The ant dropped the quilt at his feet, then step over it. He stared down, didn't move. The boy said, Do it. Step over her. The governor shifted his boot, then stopped. The quilt didn't burn before. It wouldn't move now. He looked to his men. Burn it. No one moved. Did you hear me? Still no movement. He turned to the sheriff. Control your town. The sheriff stepped forward slow. You lost it. What? This town. These people. You don't speak for them anymore. The governor laughed. I built this place. You built crates, the sheriff said. She carried them. The governor turned to the horse. It listens to ghosts. You think that scares me? The horse stared back. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. The boy whispered, her name still on its breath. The governor looked at the quilt again. The red thread glowed faint. No fire, no flame, just heat. The ant knelt, pulled the badge from beneath the edge, held it up. This is hers, not yours. The governor backed away. You think this ends with a blanket? He snapped. The boy said, No, it ends with you in it. The crowd gasped. The governor looked to the men. They didn't move. The ant whispered, Truth don't need votes, just memory. The horse snorted once, sharp, final. The wind picked up, and the brand on the quilt glowed red. The governor stepped back again, and again, then turned, walked away. No one followed. The boy folded the quilt slow, laid it across the horse's back. They didn't smile. They didn't cry. They just stood there, while the world remembered her name. They rode quiet. No cheers, no boot stomping, no songs, just hooves, and breath, and footsteps behind them. Half the town followed, some on foot, some pushing carts, some with hands still stained from work. But they came, because silence had lost its use. The quilt lay across the horse's back, still heavy with ash. The badge pressed flat beneath it. The wind had settled, but the air still carried heat. At the ridge, the trees opened, the stones waited, lined as before. Same brand, same silence. The boy dismounted. His boots hit dirt soft. The ant slid down after him. Her knees bent slow, like something inside her had aged in just one day. They stepped into the rows. The town stayed back at first, hesitant, respectful, afraid. She walked until she reached the cracked stone. The one split by the horse's hoof, the one that had opened itself. She knelt there, fingers trembling, the badge in her hand. The boy stood beside her. Say it now. She stared at the crack. You sure? He didn't blink. Say it. She closed her eyes, the badge tight in her fist. Then she spoke, clear, slow, full. Maylie Jean Cartwright. The ground didn't shake, but it breathed. One low rumble underfoot, like air had been trapped there and finally let go. Dust lifted off the stones. The grass bent backward. Even the trees behind them leaned slightly like listening. The boy whispered. She heard that. The aunt placed the badge in the crack. Not gently, not with reverence, but with certainty. She didn't run, she said. They just shut every door behind her. The crowd moved in. Just a few steps. Then more. The women came first, holding small things, scraps of cloth, buttons, bits of thread. They placed them on other stones, not to mark ownership, but remembrance. The preacher's wife laid a spool of blue thread. The baker's daughter placed a hair ribbon. Someone left a half-stitched handkerchief. The boy walked along the row. They all had names, but no one spoke 'em. The sheriff stepped into the field. No hat, no badge, just breath and boots. He reached the cracked stone, looked down at the one she had named, then pulled something from his coat pocket. His own badge. He dropped it beside hers. It hit stone with a clink. Not heavy, not light. The boy stared. Why now? The sheriff didn't look at him. Because I was told to look away. He raised his arm, pointed back toward town, toward the direction the governor had gone. By him. The crowd murmured, but no one gasped. They already knew. The aunt stood, wiped her hands on her dress. Then why'd you listen? The sheriff said, because I was weak. She nodded. Then don't pretend you're strong now. I'm not. Then leave it here. I did. They looked down at the two badges. The cracked stone didn't shift, didn't move, didn't need to. The ground had already answered. The boy turned to the others. This field don't belong to him. The sheriff nodded. Not anymore. Who owns it? Someone asked from the crowd. The boy looked around. The ones buried in it. He stepped back, looked at the stones, at the lines of silent, scorched names never written. They didn't get markers, he said, but they got memory. The aunt stepped beside him. You think that's enough? He didn't answer. The sheriff turned to go, but stopped. There's more. What more? The boy asked. Ledgers, crates, letters, names she wrote down. The aunt said, where? Governor's barn, locked box, under the floor. Keys? The sheriff shook his head. Burned. We'll break it, the boy said. You already did. The crowd stepped closer to the quilt. It lay like a flag that had never flown. Ash smeared the corners, but the center held. Still red, still whole, still hers. The horse walked forward, slow, not led, not commanded. It stopped at the cracked stone, lowered its head. The boy whispered, It remembers. The aunt nodded. It followed her voice. He looked at her, and now, it's following ours. The preacher stepped forward. What do we do now? The aunt didn't blink. We tell the story. Won't bring her back. Number, but it'll stop them from doing it again. Will it? She looked at the cracked stone. Only if we keep saying her name. The boy stepped forward. Say it then. The preacher whispered it first. Maylie. Then another. Maylie Jean. Another. Cartwright. The name passed through the field like smoke, like wind returning. The badge glinted once in the sun. Just once. Then faded. The boy stepped forward, pressed his palm to the cracked stone. It was warm. He turned, looked at the crowd. She didn't ask to be known. But she will be, the aunt said. And what happens to him? Someone asked. The governor? The sheriff said. He won't come. Back. He'll try, the aunt said. The boy stared at the horizon. Let him. The quilt lifted in the breeze, then fell still. The names in thread no longer glowed. They didn't need to. The field knew them now. And the ground would never forget. The governor came back on foot. No carriage, no guard, just dust on his coat and sweat down his spine. The sun hung low, not setting, not rising, caught somewhere in between. He walked into the field like he still owned it, boots stiff with polish, jaw clenched. Not a man used to begging, but not far from it now. The sheriff saw him first, didn't speak, didn't wave, just watched. The women saw him next. Their shoulders stiffened, but none moved. The boy stood near the center, quilt already spread across the stones. Ash had been brushed clean, her name still read. The others, stitched since dawn, dozens, maybe more, every thread hand-tied, fast, fierce. The horse stood beside the quilt, still, breath deep, chest rising slow, as if it had swallowed too many voices and didn't know how to let them go. The governor opened his mouth. No one listened. He said something. Didn't matter what. His voice didn't carry. Not in that place. Not anymore. The boy didn't look at him. The ant didn't blink. They stood in silence, taller than any word could reach. The governor stepped forward. This isn't justice. The boy turned his head. No. This is a stunt. The ant replied, No. This is revenge. The boy looked him in the eye. No. Then what is it? She said, It's memory. He scoffed. Memory ain't law. No, she said, but it lasts longer. The governor looked around. What do you want? The boy pointed to the stones. To bury what you tried to erase. You think a horse and a blanket change anything? The ant stepped forward. Number. But your silence did. He looked down at the quilt, at the names. That ain't real proof, she said. It's stitched with more truth than you ever wrote. He took another step. The crowd didn't move, but something in the air did. The horse's ears flicked, its breath deepened, its legs tensed like something passed under the dirt that only it could feel. The governor hesitated. You all really believe this? No one answered. A woman stepped forward, the grocer's wife, quiet, strong, gray hair braided down her back. She held out her hand. In it, a small ring, worn smooth. She placed it on the quilt, didn't speak, just stood back. Another woman followed, the preacher's daughter. A lock of red thread curled in her palm. She placed it on a stitched square, one with no name yet, but room. Then another came, a girl barely 12, holding a photo, torn at the edge. She laid it near the corner, scraps of cloth, buttons, baby shoes, pieces of letters, a chipped teacup, one by one, hands pressed past one another, fingers brush thread. And the quilt grew heavier, not with fabric, but with grief that finally had somewhere to rest. The governor didn't move. The sheriff lowered his head. The boy watched the men, quiet, waiting. Then it started. A hat removed, a head bowed, a single voice whispering a name, then another, and another. The governor stayed upright, still, alone. The horse turned, not all the way, just enough. Its eyes met his, and held. The wind shifted, grass moved, stones whispered in silence. The governor looked away first. The boy stepped toward the quilt, rested his palm on her name. She's here now, he said. The ant stepped beside him. Number she never left. He nodded. We just stopped listening. The sheriff stepped forward, pulled a folded page from his coat. He laid it on the quilt. A ledger page, one name scratched back in fresh ink. Not legal, not formal, but honest. He looked at the governor. You still think this ain't real? The governor said nothing. The horse exhaled, loud, final. Then it moved. One step forward, then another. No rein, no guide, just direction. It walked past the quilt, past the boy, past the governor. Didn't brush him, didn't rear, just turned its head slightly as it passed. Looked once, held that stare, then kept walking. The boy and aunt followed. No boots, no sound. They left theirs at the edge of the field. Barefoot now. The quilt trailed behind, caught on one corner of the saddle, dragging through dust. It didn't tear, didn't lift, just pulled. The governor turned, watched them go. He didn't call after them, didn't dare. The crowd parted. No one said goodbye. No one asked what next. They already knew. The boy walked on, eyes forward. The ant walked beside him, hand on the horse's side. No rope, no bridle. The path opened ahead. Ridge to road, road to dirt, dirt to memory. And still the horse walked. Still the quilt followed. Behind them, names whispered once, then remembered. No one spoke her name now. They didn't have to. She was already stitched into the land. And the horse, it turned its head just once, as if hearing something still alive in the wind. Not a cry, not a voice, just the echo of someone who was never really gone and never needed to be called home.